Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitzmonk TV here, aka Jalorn33. I'm back here today with another video on the channel for y'all, and this is, I guess, a bonus segment. I don't want to call this a bonus episode. Depends on how long we go, but definitely, it's a newsworthy day in WWE, so I had to turn on the camera. And look, I wasn't even planning on uploading today. I woke up a little bit ago and, I'm getting spammed, with messages from my boy Anthony. You guys know he was the former co-host of this podcast with me. I'm getting spammed from other subscribers on Twitter, people tagging me and stuff. I'm just like, what's going on, right? Is Sasha Banks back? What's going on? And then I look and I found out that WWE has released a bunch of superstars. Black Wednesday has returned in June. Usually, and I did a video back in April. Usually every year after WrestleMania, WWE does release some superstars on like a random day in April, right? Remember they did that last year with COVID, and they did it again this year with the releases of, Samoa Joe, Chelsea Green, the Iconics, and some other superstars. But of course, Samoa Joe and Chelsea Green were the big names. It mind blows me that they let Samoa Joe and Chelsea Green go. People that could have had a huge impact on the future of this company. But today's names are even more head scratching, right? And, usually WWE says that they made these releases because of budget cuts, right? But now today, with, these names that were released, I'm just absolutely shocked, and I'm just like, are these budget cuts? Because we know that WWE is making more money than ever because of their TV deals. Even without fans, in attendance during COVID, they were still making tons of money because of the TV deals with USA and Fox. So I don't really look at that as an excuse. But I honestly don't know, because I'm not a WWE insider. I really don't know why these names were released. And we're going to go into them right now. Right. And, since I'm recording, I am going to refresh the page because you never know. More superstars could get released. But I'm hoping this is all for now. So WWE, from their official website, WWE.com, the article states, WWE has come to terms on the releases of Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Lana, Murphy, Ruby Riott, and Santana Garrett. WWE wishes them the best in all of their future endeavors. So, right away, that's very, very shocking. Very, very shocking. Especially Strowman, Black, Murphy, and Ruby Riott. Those are the four big names that really, when you're like, why? What's crazy is Braun Strowman was just in a world title match at the last pay-per-view 3 weeks ago. WrestleMania Backlash was about 3 weeks ago at the recording of this video, middle of May, and he was in that amazing triple threat match for the WWE Championship with Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, right? And now he's released. This last week on Raw, you have Strowman doing a promo video about how hyped he is, for the return of fans, and then how he cannot wait to perform in front of the WWE Universe again, and whoever steps in his path is going to get these hands, right? So now, a week later, he's released. And it's just like, what's going on? It's crazy. Like, Strowman was in the main event scene. And the thing is, that triple threat match was one of Strowman's better matches in his entire WWE run. Strowman, I was never the biggest fan of him because WWE messed up on Strowman very early on. You look at Strowman's career, right? When he first came up to the main roster, he was in the Wyatt family. He was the big man. He was huge. And they made him a big deal, right? He was the heavy hitter in the Wyatt family. And then eventually, with the WWE draft, they sent the Wyatt family to SmackDown, and Strowman was built as a single star on Raw. And, at first, they did a pretty good job of building him up, right? They had him feud with the likes of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And, he was actually a pretty decent act. They protect him pretty well, and people wanted to see him succeed. I remember specifically during that Roman Reigns feud, people really got behind Strowman because at that time, people had gotten fatigued of Roman Reigns. Reigns had just beaten The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And, Strowman destroying Roman every single week was great. I remember there was a segment on Raw where Strowman attacked Roman backstage, who was on a gurney, and then Strowman comes out of nowhere and he says, "I'm not finished with you," and he shoves Roman off of this platform. Right? Clearly, it looked like it was pre-taped because you want Roman not to get seriously injured, but you guys get the point. And then everyone had so much behind Strowman at the time. And because that was before we learned that Strowman was pretty limited in the ring and he didn't have the greatest moveset, And then we all know, later that year, we get the Fatal 4-Way at SummerSlam, and then everybody wants to see Strowman in the Universal title scene. Then we get Strowman versus Lesnar 1-on-1 at No Mercy, a match I was very excited about. Because at that time, you had Samoa Joe, you had Roman Reigns, you had Lesnar, you had Strowman. And the thing about it with Lesnar was actually appearing on WWE TV pretty consistently during that year. After he had beat Goldberg for the Universal title, he was wrestling on not every pay-per-view, but he was wrestling on basically every other pay-per-view, which was, such an improvement from what we had seen from Lesnar in the past, right? But the Lesnar versus Strowman match was was disappointing. It wasn't awful. It was better than Samoa Joe versus Lesnar from Great Balls of Fire, but it was disappointing because we expected a little bit more. Some people actually wanted Strowman to win the Universal title at that match, right? But after that, people started, looking at Strowman and they're like, is this guy really that good, or is he just another big man? And that's what really, defined Strowman during his WWE run. He has the look and the appearance of a monster, but his moveset and the way he was in the ring, truly didn't match all the hype he had behind him. But the thing about it is, he still stayed in the main event scene for the next 5 years. And I got my AC on in the background because it's super hot in here. So hopefully it's not too loud. But Strowman stayed in the main event scene. And we all know WrestleMania, I believe it was WrestleMania 34. He won the Raw Tag Team titles with Nicholas, which was a joke, really, but it's something we remember to this day because of how funny it was that Strowman won a tag team title with a 10-year-old kid. Then, he stayed in the main event scene. When it came to Survivor Series time, he would destroy everybody. But he never really took that big step that everyone took him to. He was in the main event, but never became the big, iconic big man, that everyone thought he had the skills to do. He was super fast for his size. He was strong as hell. And plus, at the time, people were getting behind him with the get these hands gimmick, even though we knew he was limited in the ring. I don't remember all of Strowman's career, but let's, flash forward a couple years. He finally won his first singles title when he became the IC champion. I believe that was Elimination Chamber of last year, if I'm correct. I could be wrong, but I believe that was around that time. And then he lost the title, I believe, in his first defense to, if I'm right, it's Sami Zayn, if I believe. But then he got a bigger moment at WrestleMania. Remember, Roman Reigns had called out of WrestleMania because of COVID. It was still very early in the pandemic. And then Strowman was picked as the guy to face Goldberg at WrestleMania in the Performance Center with no crowd. The match was horrific. The match, no one remembers anything from the match, but it was Strowman's, big world title victory. Even though he never deserved it, in my opinion. He didn't deserve it. But still, he won that title. He held the title for about 3-4 months, and he didn't do anything with it. He faced off against Bray Wyatt for a couple months, but that feud was, there was nothing special. At that point, people were already, losing faith and support in The Fiend because of his booking. And it didn't help Strowman in the long run. They tried to include Alexa Bliss in there, but, it never really worked out. They even had Strowman debut a whole new look. He cut his hair off. He started wearing, camel tees, right? But I was never really able to get behind his new look. And then he lost the Universal Championship to Bray Wyatt at SummerSlam. And then, that's when Roman came back. And then we all know what happened from there. The tribal chief gimmick and where we are now. Strowman then, got put on Raw. He was a heel, then a face, then a heel again. He feuded a little bit with Sheamus and Keith Lee, but didn't really do anything special. Then he had the Shane McMahon feud, which actually wasn't a terrible match at WrestleMania. But, it's just nothing that I would really go back and watch, saying, oh, I have to go back and watch Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. Like, no, it is what it is. It's whatever. Then, he was put in the Universal title scene, and then we had that, great triple threat match at WrestleMania Backlash, and now here we are. Strowman is no longer with WWE. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to miss Braun Strowman, because honestly, I'm not. But it really doesn't make sense to release him. I feel like he still could have a place on the main roster. I don't want to see him as a world champion anytime soon, but definitely a guy like him, especially him being a former world champion, and he's actually had some, he's had some good matches, some, good moments, like his feuds, his matches with Roman Reigns in 2017. He had a great match with Seth Rollins, I believe, at Night of Champions 2 years ago. The triple threat match that we've been talking about. He had a great match with Bobby Lashley a couple years ago when we had fans in attendance. Back when he was a heel. He was a face at the time, and Bobby was a heel. I think it was an Extreme Rules match. I don't know, but Strowman's had some good matches, and of course we'll remember all the times where Strowman destroyed something, no matter if it was like dropping a set on Brock Lesnar or picking up a limo and flipping it over. He's had some more memorable moments. And I'm not going to sit here and say Strowman's a Hall of Famer. I don't know. Maybe he will be. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back to WWE one day. But I don't really understand why he was released. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me, especially when there was no word about Strowman being released last week. And, the big thing that we got to, think about here is that, look, you have Tony Khan's clown ass over here talking about how AEW is going to be making an expansion here in the next year. And because we know that AEW has 4 new TV shows, we know they're moving to TBS, and they're coming off, what was their, arguably you could say their best pay-per-view ever with Double or Nothing on Sunday. I actually watched the pay-per-view, and it was pretty good. I'm not a fan of AEW or anything like that, but, I wouldn't be doing my job if I sat here and tried to tell you it was a bad show when it wasn't. It was a really good show. But, look, Strowman is almost definitely going to AEW. I know all these people that were released today, they have the 90-day, no complete cause. But I feel like we all know Strowman's going to, go to AEW. The guy's, the guy loves wrestling. He's not the greatest at it. He never really reached his full potential in WWE, even though he did win a world champion. But he lucked his way into that championship. Strowman's going to be in AEW. I feel like that's already set in stone. He'll probably have a different name. We'll see if he still has the same look. But I feel like it's almost a foregone conclusion that Strowman will stay in wrestling and he'll be a big man in AEW. I don't think he'll be AEW World Champion or anything like that. But definitely, I could see him being in AEW, and then they put him into some kind of faction, I could think about maybe seeing like Braun Strowman versus Jake Hager from the Inner Circle. That's gonna be something I would like to see. I don't know. We know that Mark Henry's gonna be a coach and an assistant, right? Coach and trainer on AEW. And maybe there's a chance he may get back in the ring. We never know. Maybe we get Strowman versus Mark Henry. Or maybe Mark Henry, aligns with Strowman to be his trainer since he has all that experience. I don't know, but I definitely don't think Strowman's done. I expect to see him most likely in AEW. And the thing about it is, you're just making AEW stronger, right? I don't know if WWE's just planning on bringing a bunch of NXT talent up, and that's the reason why so many main roster superstars got released today, or if they're planning something else. Maybe they're planning on signing a bunch of talent that's gonna, be fast-tracked. If he's gonna be fast-tracked if these people that get signed to NXT are going to be fast-tracked to the main roster. I don't know, but it's something to, look out for. It's very, very, very interesting that this, WWE is, just randomly releasing all of these superstars. But Strowman's clearly the biggest one. The next big one, which pisses me off more than anything, is Aleister Black. You guys who have listened to this podcast, Aleister Black was one of my favorites. Why is Big E trending? I'm looking at Twitter to see if there's any updates. Okay, for a second I thought I was gonna get scared. I thought Big E was about to get released. I was like, no. All right, people. Big E's trending because people are mentioning Big E when they talk about Aleister Black, which I'm about to talk about right now. I have been a huge fan of Aleister Black for a long time. He has been one of my favorite superstars in NXT, and he had the character and the potential to be a world champion. He should have been a main event player on WWE, but they fucked him up. They really did. He came onto the main roster with Ricochet after a fantastic NXT run where he was NXT champion, had great matches with, I know people don't like him, but you can't deny Aleister Black and Velveteen Dream had an amazing feud in NXT. Matches with Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. Black has a brilliant legacy in NXT. One of my favorite people to ever come into the NXT brand. Got caught up with Ricochet. I remember when they got caught up, they went after every single tag team championship in that company at the time. Every single tag team championship at the time. And, which was the NXT titles, the Raw titles, and the SmackDown titles, right? I believe they're in, I don't remember which title they contended for at WrestleMania. They didn't win any of those matches, but it was just funny that WWE put them in every single tag team championship match around WrestleMania season. And then, they went their separate ways. Ricochet, I'm surprised Ricochet hasn't been released yet. I really have no idea how Ricochet is still with the company, and you have all these other superstars being released, especially with how poorly booked Ricochet's been booked on the main roster these last couple of years. But Aleister Black, he there was a time where he was on a win streak. He was undefeated for a time, right? I remember specifically a great match he had with AJ Styles. I think it was at the Elimination Chamber last year, the last pay-per-view before the pandemic began. And then The Undertaker came out to attack AJ Styles. And then from there, Aleister Black, they put him in this feud with Seth Rollins, right? When Seth was, feuding for like half the summer with the Mysterio family. And Aleister was just like an outlier. He was just there as like a support character. And I'm just like, Aleister Black is too good to be a support character in this feud with Seth. And then they decided to write Aleister off TV by having him lose an eye, right? By having Seth and Buddy Murphy throw him into the steel steps. And then Aleister comes back months later, and he's a heel all of a sudden. All of a sudden, he's a heel. He attacked KO a couple times. Then they decided to take everything that made Aleister Black special in NXT away from him. They took away the amazing entrance. They took away his attire, right? He came out, dressed like he was in a motorcycle gang, a biker gang. He had an eye patch. He had black pants. And, I was like, this is not the Aleister Black, we fell in love with. This is a far cry from Aleister Black. And then we have the draft, and he's drafted to SmackDown. Along this time, that's when Zelina Vega was released from WWE. And what's crazy to think about now is Zelina Vega's back with WWE. We've heard the reports that Zelina's re-signed with the company, right? I thought that would have something to do with Aleister Black getting back on television, which he did these last couple months. And then, we've heard reports of Zelina Vega filming something in the Performance Center, and that, it's going to be used on WWE TV eventually at some point. I'm just like, okay, because I actually like Zelina Vega. I thought for the longest amount of time that since almost everyone knows Zelina Vega and Aleister Black, they're married outside of, WWE. They're married in real life. So I was like, why don't you just put Zelina and Aleister Black together on TV? You do it with Karrion Kross and Scarlett, I believe that's her name, on NXT. Why not just do it here with WWE? No one's going to complain, right? But, Aleister Black, we didn't see him for the first 6 months after the WWE draft. I complained about it on the SmackDown podcast that you have all this talent in your mid-card and main event scene, and Aleister Black's not being used. Isn't SmackDown supposed to be the land of opportunity? This is when Aleister Black should be making a revival on the main roster. And then finally, after WrestleMania, we thought Aleister Black was getting that revival. He was cutting all these promos. And then in that amazing Fatal 4-Way we had the main event SmackDown a couple weeks ago, Aleister Black cost Big E the IC championship. And everyone's like, all right, bet. Aleister Black is back. He has, he still had a contact or, I don't know, yeah, he had a contact in. I don't know, that was supposed to be symbolic of his feud with Seth Rollins. But, after all the promos you had Aleister Black cut those last couple weeks, everyone's like, okay, here we go. Is Aleister Black finally going to get the push that he should have got when he first came to the main roster? And then, now, here we are 2 weeks later. Aleister Black and Big E weren't on SmackDown last week. And now, Aleister Black is off TV. And now he's released. Aleister Black is, when we talk about the definition of NXT call-ups that have been fucked up by Vince McMahon, Aleister Black is the definition of that. You can say Ricochet. You could say so many of the, female talent like, Ruby Riott, Selena Vega, Andrade, right? Austin Theory for the short time he was on the main roster. There was so much talent that you could say that Vince McMahon fucked up that were called up from NXT. But Aleister Black is the definition of people that Vince McMahon fucked up that were called up from the Black and Gold brand. It is horrendous that Aleister Black never won a main roster championship. It is horrendous that he was never booked as a main event superstar. It's horrific that you took away everything that made him Aleister Black. And the second it looked like he's making a revival, he's gone. I don't understand it. I hate it. And it's just like, why? I'm trying really hard to understand why WWE would make these releases, but they make no sense to me. No sense to me. And honestly, I'm just like, it's sad. It's sad. But, I'm looking at IW Nerd right now, just trying to see if there's any other names that I'm missing. Nothing so far. I'm looking right now, so give me guys a second. Like I said, this was not a planned podcast today. Alright, Miz suffered a partial ACL tear, so I didn't know that. So some people said the Miz suffered a full ACL tear, but it's only a partial one. So it makes sense. He was back on WWE TV last week. It probably WWE will not have him wrestle, heavily, until they feel like he's ready to go. So I do have a report from Vince McMahon, right? I don't know if this has to do with the releases, but I will mention it here, just because, before we talk about the next name that WWE messed up on. WWE is getting all superstars to come back to the WWE Performance Center over these next few weeks. This will be to prepare them for WWE's return to live events. This is from Mike Johnson, a PWI insider. World Wrestling Entertainment began informing members of the Talent roster at yesterday's Monday Night Raw taping that they will be expected to come to the WWE Performance Center over the forthcoming weeks. They take part in workouts in the ring to better prepare them for the company's official return to the road in July. PWInsider.com is told that the workouts could begin as early as next week, with Talent taking part in drills and perhaps even matches in order to make their ring work sharper. This is believed to be a Vince McMahon edict. Johnson added that everyone on the roster will be asked to participate, including the top names in the company. Here's what he wrote. In speaking to some talents overnight, PWInsider.com was told by a number that they were looking forward to trying to get their timing and in-ring work back to normal after over a year of working once a week, and that to the average person watching. There may not have been any noticeable changes, but among talents who know better from being inside the ring, there were quite a few who felt their timing had been a little off for some time. Based on those PWIinsider.com has spoken with, is that everyone on the roster from top names on down will be asked to take part in the workouts. One talent joked that they were thrilled about having to row around in the ring on an off day, but that is if this brought the company closer to getting back to normal, pre-pandemic touring and work, that they were all for it. So, I don't know if that, when you look at this, I don't know if this has something to do with the releases. Because it does say that everybody in the company is, being forced to do this. And I kind of get it, right? They are going back on tour. Based on what I've heard, they're not doing full live events right now. They're just going to be doing normal taping, so Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-views. But that could change. We don't know. I've heard reports that WWE doesn't have any plans to go back to their normal touring schedule. But like I said, you never know with someone like Vince McMahon. Maybe they could slowly go to doing one live event to two live events back to three. I know the WWE superstars would like to be on the road as less as possible, but at the end of the day, I know a lot of them miss being in front of the WWE Universe and doing what they love to do. So it's going to be interesting, but maybe Vince McMahon, and this is just me, speculating. I don't know. I'm not an insider. I don't have, connections in the company like that. But maybe, maybe Vince looked at the town roster before these in-ring tryouts, and then he said, maybe some of these names, maybe we just need to let them go. Like, don't even have them do the tryout, right? We've heard a lot about Vince McMahon not being a big fan of Keith Lee's in-ring work. And, I've heard reports of him telling Keith Lee to go home and lose some weight. I don't know if those reports are true. I pray that those reports are not true. But with every passing week that we don't see Keith Lee and the suspicions and how nobody's saying anything about him, it's like, could those reports be true? I don't know. I hope not, but I want Keith Lee back on television just like you guys want him back. And I would not be surprised if Vince really went through the roster and he said, you, I don't even want to see you at these, these workouts, or whatever they're calling them, these drills / workouts. But if we get more information on that, I'll make another video. But still, it just seems kind of odd that out of nowhere, Vince McMahon is ordering all the talent to the Performance Center for these drills / workouts to get timing better. And then one day later, a bunch of names from WWE's main roster, including some big names, are released. So, I don't know. It's just speculation, but maybe there is a potential connection. Something, to keep an eye out for. That's for sure. So, next up, Lana. Lana's been with the company for a pretty long time, actually. Back in the day when she was with Rusev as Rusev's manager, then eventually they broke her and Rusev up. They had Lana with Dolph Ziggler for a little bit, until eventually they paired Lana and Rusev back up together. Then, as the years went by, Lana tried developing a singles career for herself, but she just never showed that she had the talent to be a successful and also a prominent wrestler in the women's division, right? The last couple of years, she's been more of just a wrestler and not a manager, but the last about half a year, she was in a tag team with Naomi, which I never was for, because I believe Naomi should be one of the top single stars in the women's division. And it just blows my mind that, Naomi has not been pushed as much as she should have. She's a former women's champion, and they don't push her. But she's one of the most underrated performers in that women's division. Then you look at Lana. Lana was just a name there. I remember after the draft, it looked like Lana was getting pushed. She actually was given a couple Raw Women's Championship opportunities against Asuka. Those matches were not good at all, but, she was put in that position. And I remember, they had Nia Jax throw Lana into an announce table for 8-9 weeks in a row? Legitimately, she was thrown into an announce table, and it was an actual gimmick. It was an actual gimmick for about 2 months on WWE TV. And people were like, oh, Vince is playing this for this to get Lana more over in the long run. And we were like, get her over? Seriously? This is not doing anything to get her over. It makes the women's division look more and more garbage each and every single week that they decide to do decisions like this. So, Lana, after that, they paired her with Naomi, and they went up to the tag team titles, and they never won them. They had 5 or 6 championship opportunities and never won them. And now, finally, Lana got released, right? I'm not going to miss Lana, really. I know that, I believe her name's CJ Perry. I know that she tries to get better every single day. If you look at her social media page, when she's not doing TikToks or whatever, she does do a lot of, training. And if you ever watch Total Divas, right, she was very passionate about wrestling and how she wanted to get better, but she just never developed that in-ring skill to becoming, a huge, big name superstar. Never got there. Never got there. And it's, it's whatever. I wish her the best in her future endeavors. I know her husband, Rusev, a.k.a. Miro, he's right now the TNT champion in AEW, and I'm happy for him because he deserves it, especially with how talented he is. Maybe AEW picks up Lana and they make him Rusev's manager again, or Miro's manager, even though I don't think he needs it, but I could definitely see AEW doing it. I don't think Lana would be a pickup for the AEW women's division, but, you never know. Maybe Lana goes to TNA. I don't know. All right, or maybe Lana just becomes a social media influencer. She definitely has the social media following to do that if she wants that. But whatever she does, and I'm still getting texts from subscribers about WWE, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna miss Lana at the end of the day. I wish her the best in whatever she does next, right? But it is what it is. I'm more angry about Strowman and Aleister Black, if anything. Or, no, not even Strowman. I'm more mad about Aleister Black, if anything. Yeah. But one more point I want to make on Lana. Maybe this could be a blessing in disguise for Naomi. So, Naomi was not released today. And if Naomi got released, social media would have probably lost their minds. We saw how mad DDB got, or how mad, fans on social media got when freaking Mickie James and, the Iconic were released. Imagine how mad people would have got if Naomi was released today. Especially with how passionate her fan base is. Naomi was freaking trending on Twitter a couple months ago because people wanted to see her push. Maybe this finally means Naomi can go back into a singles role and finally be built up as somebody to challenge for the Raw Women's Championship. Right? Honestly, if Naomi does go back into a singles role, she would be my pick to win Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is next month, and right now there's really no favorite to win it. I know some people have Sasha Banks, some people have Becky Lynch, right? But if neither one of those superstars are in the match, I think you should go with someone like either Sonya Deville or Naomi. One of those two names definitely deserves it. Because, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, I'm tired of it. I hope it ends after Hell in a Cell. I hope Rhea Ripley wins just because I don't want to see Charlotte as champion. But I would love to see Naomi built up as a legitimate challenger in that Raw Women's division. Maybe even to become the Raw Women's champion. Naomi is too freaking good to be wasted. Too good. So hopefully this could be a blessing in disguise for Naomi. Hopefully WWE finally pushes Naomi as a single star. But, for right now, we'll see. But I don't trust this company at all. But we could just, pray for the best. Really, that's all we can do. But one other note on Aleister Black. Like I said, I find it ironic that Zelina Vega is about to make her return to the company, and Aleister Black is now fired, right? Aleister Black is AEW bound too. Like him and Strowman are easily AEW bound. I could definitely see Tony Khan taking, Aleister Black and putting him up against MJF, against Jericho, against Cody Rhodes, right? There's so much they could do with Aleister Black in AEW. And it just, if I see Aleister Black in AEW, it's going to piss me off just because he should be in WWE as a main event star. It's like WWE's just gifting AEW any talent, that they have. And I don't know what else to really say about it, but it's just sad. Aleister Black is the name that pisses me off more than anything, and I hate it. I really do hate it. And I don't understand why WWE just wants to just give AEW all this talent, because we know that Tony Khan has no problem spending money to sign these guys. But I don't know. Next up, the next name was Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy, another guy that should have been used on SmackDown, right? We talked about Aleister Black. Buddy Murphy, man, he was in a prominent feud earlier this year. They had him in that feud with Seth Rollins, and, Seth turned on Murphy. Murphy aligned himself with the Mysterios, and he made a babyface turn. They had that storyline going with Alea Mysterio. There was reports that WWE wanted to do a little bit more with that storyline. Like, they were actually planning a wedding between the two, which we all know how WWE weddings go. But, those plans, were scrapped, and then Buddy Murphy just fell off the map. We didn't see him for a couple months. He did return for like a 2-week stretch, I think. I don't know who he faced at the time. He tried to, realign himself with Seth Rollins, but Seth didn't have anything to do. He wanted nothing to do with Buddy Murphy at that point. And then I think Murphy was just fed. I don't know who he was fed to. It may have been Big E. I don't know. But he was fed to someone on WWE TV for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then he went right back to catering. So it just sucked. Buddy Murphy was also somebody super talented. If you guys remember, he won the Cruiserweight Championship at one of the Saudi Arabia shows, and, everyone popped for it, right? It was a huge moment for him, and he went on to be a pretty decent Cruiserweight champion. Then he got moved up to Raw, and then everyone was excited for him. Then he got moved to SmackDown. He had 2 really fantastic matches. He had one against Roman Reigns, which some people believe was the best TV match all year. And it may have been. I believe that was in 2019, I believe. And he had a really great match with Daniel Bryan, who I believe was a heel at the time. But, everyone was excited for Buddy Murphy. Everyone was, hoping that this guy could be a future main event player. And, I believe he was the Raw Tag Team Champions with Seth Rollins for a couple months. But other than that, they never used him for anything. Here you have another talented guy in the endless pool of talent that WWE has, and you didn't use him. And I can definitely see Murphy going to AEW or Impact, On AEW, I feel like he would be more used on the other shows instead of the main shows, but you never know. But it's just another guy that WWE has that's super talented, because all these guys that WWE have, they're great in the ring. It's just that WWE never books them properly. The 50-50 booking, them being taken off television for like 50 weeks and then coming back. It's just like, really? This is what we're doing with them? And it's just like, wow. Why can't WWE do better with these superstars? Why can't they? But yeah, Buddy Murphy, I'm not surprised that he was released. It's just another great guy that could have been more. Next up, another NXT guy, or female, Ruby Riott. Yeah. So basically now, if you think about it, almost I don't think Liv Morgan was released, but and if she wasn't, she's the only member of the Riot Squad now that still has a job. You guys know how much I love Liv Morgan and how I wish she would get pushed, and you guys know how much I feel that Ruby Riott is underrated. You guys know I complained on here for well over a year that the Riot Squad, they should be the tag team champions for the women's division. If anybody should have took those titles from Sasha Banks and Bayley, it should have been the Riot Squad. Time after time, the Riot Squad were easily the most established team in the women's division. They had been teaming with each other the longest. They actually had an identity, right? We all remember 2018 when they spent almost all year feuding with Sasha Banks and Bayley and Ember Moon. And as much as I hated it for Sasha and Bayley, right, it actually made the Riot Squad, taken a little more seriously on the main roster, And I believe Ruby Riott, the only championship match that she ever had for a singles title was against Charlotte at Fastlane, if I'm correct. I believe it was Fastlane in 2018. But outside of that, the Riot Squad were never really used to their full potential. They never won the Women's Tag Team Championships. Sarah Logan was released last year. They broke up the Riot Squad for a little bit of time, and then last summer in the Performance Center, they brought Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott back, and I thought it would lead them to the Tag Team Championships, but they never won them. Never won them. They were constantly performing in good matches. You could see Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan getting better and better, and the fact that they never won those tag titles is such a miscarriage of justice. You had Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Natalya, and Tamina, teams that had never teamed with each other before, while the Riot Squad had been together for the last 4 years on WWE TV for the most part. And they never won those tag team titles. And I wanted to see the Riot Squad win them. I wanted to see them take those titles to NXT, to Raw, to SmackDown, before, of course, NXT got their own set of women's tag team titles. And instead, WWE never gave them to them. And the thing is, even so, you could have used Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan as singles competitors. I wanted to see them face Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's title. I wanted to see them show everybody how good they are, because I knew how good Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott were. Ruby Riott had some banger matches with Asuka and other superstars when she was in NXT, right? And she had some good matches on the main roster as well. And instead, WWE just wasted them. Just this past Friday on SmackDown, they lost to Natalya and Tamina. And I'm sitting here scratching my head like, why aren't they being built up to take those titles from Natalya and Tamina? Why aren't they being used at all? And now here we are, and now they don't even have jobs anymore. It's just sad. It really is just sad how WWE has these superstars with so much talent that we want to see succeed, and they refuse to let them succeed. They refuse to even give them serious roles on WWE TV. Some of them, they go months and months without being on TV, and then when you see them back, you're like, why should we care about them? Because WWE doesn't use them. And then when these superstars are on TV, they're not booked correctly. They're just booked as losers because WWE just pushes the Charlotte Flairs down your throat all the time. It's like, why? I don't want to see Natalya and Tamina as the tag team champions. I want to see the freaking Y Squad as the tag team champions. And WWE refuses to use them. And it's like, what the hell? What the actual hell? I don't know. I don't know what to say. Look, Liv Morgan, for now, it looks like she's with WWE because I keep refreshing my page as I'm recording, and I'm not getting anything from that, so, I guess that's good. Does this mean that Liv Morgan, I said the same thing about Naomi earlier, does this mean that Liv Morgan is going to get a singles push? I would love that for her. You guys know I love Liv Morgan. I would absolutely love to see her get a singles push. I don't expect her, I don't expect her to get pushed. And it's just sad. It's just sad that, that's probably going to be the case, that she's not going to get pushed when she deserves so much better. So much better. But I don't know what else to say, really. I do not know what else to say. And the last name was Santana Garrett from, I believe she was an NXT superstar in the women's division. I never really knew that much about her, right? I believe she was, yeah. I'm looking at YouTube right now. She was on, she was in the Royal Rumble, and she did face off against Bianca Belair on Raw last year in April, right? This was back when Bianca was first making her debut back when Bianca Belair was first making her debut on the main roster. But, you know, I don't watch NXT as much as I used to. I'm sure she probably had some really good moments on, NXT, but, I wish her the best in her future endeavors, and, we'll just see what happens with her going forward. But, yeah. I'm going to take one last look at, Twitter, make sure I'm not missing anybody. If WWE releases more superstars later this afternoon, which I hope they wouldn't, right? It sucks to lose your job. But I know for a fact, Strowman, Black, Buddy Murphy, Ruby Riott, those 4 names will definitely be able to find work. Like I said, they're still getting paid for the next 90 days as they're, because they have that no compete clause. But I expect Strowman and Black, to be in AEW. I definitely think they're going to be in AEW going forward. Maybe Murphy and Ruby Riott and Lana will be there as well, but I could see them more likely going to TNA, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But most of these guys will be able to find work fairly quickly. And like I said, I don't know why WWE wants to give AEW more ammo to play with. We know that Tony Khan has no problem signing more talent, especially from them. They're going to be riding a huge wave of momentum after that successful Double or Nothing show. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know, really. I don't have any explanations for why WWE's doing this. I'm trying to find some name or trying to find some info. I don't know. This is budget cuts. I don't know if they're planning on making room for a lot of superstars to get called up from NXT. I don't know if they are planning on... I don't know if they're planning on... What's the word I'm looking for? If they're planning on signing a bunch of new talent and fast-tracking them to the main roster. We'll just have to wait and see what happens, but it is just like... It's crazy. Black Wednesday in June. I really hate it for, Aleister Black. That's the name that gets me, the most frustrated. Because that's a guy, out of all these names that were released, Aleister Black was the one with the most potential and was, booked the most horrendously on the main roster. And I hate it. I'm probably going to go back this afternoon when I get home from work. Probably go back and watch some Aleister Black classics on the on Peacock, and then this just from NXT, and just remember, how bad did we truly fucked up on these guys. But let me see. JD from NY. So you guys know JD from NY. A lot of you guys who watch me are subscribed to him as well. I'm going to go through a couple of his tweets, see if we got some more information on this. JD said, I've been a fan of WWE for over 30 years, and the last 5 years may be the biggest waste of talent I've personally ever seen from a fan's perspective. Something is not right. The wrong people are in the wrong positions creatively, and those who wield power don't care about the talent. What do I say every single week here on the podcast? It's a shame that I can sit here and book these superstars better than WWE can. The amount, if you, I don't have a list in front of me, but if you could just put up a list of all the superstars that were released in the last 5 years from WWE, right? And you look at that list and you see how much talent was let go for either a big reason or for no reason at all. It is astonishing how much WWE talent. And the thing about it is, WWE still has so much talent left on the main roster. Right? With all of the releases we've seen in the last couple months, they still have a shitload of talent that they can use. And still, even after today, about 60 to 70% of that talent in catering is still not going to be used correctly. Still, they'll either not be on TV at all, or when they are on TV, they're booked to be looked at as jobbers, because the same people are always the same ones getting pushed. It's crazy. And yes, this is a lot. Most of this goes on WWE management. The superstars are not to blame in this situation. They're not the ones who decide that. They're not the ones who choose to be released. They're not. Most of these superstars didn't ask for, a release. So, I don't know if it's these people in the wrong positions, right? Like, definitely there's people in the wrong positions, because I don't know who's making these decisions. I don't. It could be Vince. I definitely feel like Vince definitely probably said okay with these superstars being released, because WWE probably would have released these superstars if Vince didn't approve of it, because Vince probably didn't care for most of this talent, and it's like whatever. And John Laurinaitis getting on the phone, "Hey kid, we wish you the best in your future endeavors." It's like the wrong people are being called upon to make these decisions. Truly. Not only creatively do you have bad people who don't know how to book these superstars properly, and that goes on Vince as well, because Vince is the one that gets the final say in everything creative-wise, which he needs to be taken out of that position, and it needs to be replaced with Triple H. But, I don't know if WWE will ever make that decision. Who knows who will be gone from WWE by the time Vince ever lets go of his creative powers. But not only is the creative people in charge of the show, are they atrocious, you also have the guys running from a business perspective. Who's giving the okays? Who's actually making the decisions? Who's sitting at the round tables to make these choices? Who? Somebody. Let me know. Let me know. All right, Andrew Zarian. I don't know who he is, but he tweeted out an hour ago that more is to come. He has 10,000 he has 10,000 followers on Twitter. He is the host of the Map Men podcast, and he's also the host of the What the Tech, whatever that means. I don't know. Oh, that's a tech podcast. So he does a pro wrestling podcast as well. Maybe you guys are familiar with him. I don't know, but he says some of these names are people who were looking to get released. WWE has taken a very different approach when it comes to this. So maybe some of these superstars went and said they wanted to release. I can definitely see potentially maybe a Buddy Murphy, right, wanting to be gone. Aleister Black definitely wanted to be gone, especially what happened with Zelina Vega. I would definitely not be surprised if Aleister Black, not only from a creative standpoint, but just being frustrated with how his wife was treated. I could definitely see him wanting to be gone, but that would feel kind of weird now that Zelina Vega is reportedly back with the company. So, I don't know. Maybe Ruby Riott, but I'm surprised. If Ruby Riott wanted to be gone, why wouldn't Liv Morgan be right behind her? I don't know, but still, just the fact that we're hearing that more are to come, that's scary. That's scary. I hope nobody else gets released today. I hope I don't have to come back here later and do another podcast. But we'll see. We'll see. JD says, I'm going to keep a close eye on this stuff, guys. He said he's going to hold off until the flames die off a bit. And then, he'll make another video later on. So expect a video from JD later on. He also tweeted out he made a mistake earlier that he just wants to correct. He tweeted that Liv Morgan was let go, and there still is time for that to happen today, but it hasn't happened as of right now. And that he got caught up seeing Ruby Riott's name associated and both of them being let go. So as of right now, Ruby Riott has not been released. But I'm going to check WWE's Twitter page one more time. It's about 1 o'clock Eastern time here on the East Coast. So there are no other releases right now. But if there is any more, I will make another video. I hope there's none. But we'll just have to wait and see. But let me know in the comment section, guys, what you guys think of all these big releases. Like I said, most of these superstars are gonna be able to find work. But yeah, most of these people are gonna be able to find work. It just sucks that here you were signed with the biggest professional wrestling company in the world, and you didn't use them. It just sucks that this is what WWE decides to do. I wish them back, but hey. I'm looking at Twitter just a little bit before So yeah, Liv Morgan just tweeted out that whoever is lucky enough to get Heidi Lovelace on their roster, you win, which was the former name of Ruby Riott, I believe, when she was on the indie scene. So yeah, look, I don't really know what else to say. I feel like I've said enough on this situation for now. Like I said, guys, make sure you guys have notifications enabled, right? Make sure you guys have notifications enabled, because if there are more releases later on, I hope not, but if there are more releases later on in the afternoon, I will probably make another video tonight, probably late tonight, because I have work till later in the afternoon, but we'll see what happens. But thank you guys for the love and support, man. I didn't want to have to make an extra podcast video today, but had to do what had to be done, right? That's what I'm here for. This is my job, so here it is. I'm seeing a lot of female superstars coming to the support of Ruby Riott and Lana on Twitter, so I'll probably be retweeting those out as the day goes on. But yeah, thank you guys for everything. I'll see you guys later. Stay safe, stay healthy, y'all. Peace.